Welcome to the podcast, hablemos de lo nuevo. 40Gs, Gs que pasa en el terreno. Vienen jugadores y se van, traiga lo nuevo a huevo. Doesn't matter where you from, Salvador, Mexico, Honduras, Nicaragua. Todo mi latino, come and listen for an hour. TikTok, que traemos lo que quiere. Todo lo que pasa dentro y fuera de las redes. Really? You don't know what it is. Reportamos con la lupa what we see at the digs. En las buenas y en las malas yo diré la verdad. Si cometen un error o tienen habilidad, la calidad del rival cuando viene a jugar. Facts. Yo no me muerdo la lengua. Got love for the crest in the city I came from. Los campeones de campeones y con copas mi race. No empezamos el programa, soy la voz de LA One. Soy la voz de LA One. Love. Yeah.
Hello, hola, and buenas, and welcome back to another episode of La Cuna Galaxiana, un podcast siempre hecho con amor para todos los fanáticos del LA Galaxy and all you MLS fans as well, wherever you may be and however you may be riding out this Galaxy losing streak. Today, join us for another round of group therapy yet again, aka Mega Sadful Hours, as the LA Galaxy have lost once again. This time, the defeat took place at home on Sunday, March 9th against St. Louis City, who hadn't scored a goal all season, but beat the Galaxy 3-0. LA's second straight home loss and fourth in all competitions now. After creating good chances throughout the first half and some in the second, the Galaxy were punished for their wastefulness by the visitors, who were led by a man-of-the-match performance by their keeper, Roman Berkey, and took advantage of a miscue on a set piece to put themselves and change the course of the game. We'll look at what the Galaxy did right, what they did wrong, and why, although Galaxy fans should feel disappointed with the result, LA has a glimmer of hope through youth. We'll also take a look at the Galaxy's upcoming Champions Cup fixture on Wednesday, a must-win match at home that will see the champions have to reverse a 1-0 scoreline to avoid being knocked out of the competition in their first round of play. Plus, the Galaxy makes history, but for the wrong reasons, and at the very least, one Vanny had a good week this week. All of that and more coming up on La Cuna Galaxiana tonight. But before we get into everything in Sadful Hours proper, let me introduce myself. I'm one of your co-hosts, Rob Halon, and you can find my written work on Extra Time Talk and the Sporting Tribune. And of course, you can find me here online, just like my tag says, at El Escudero de LA. And of course, right next to me, as usual, the Kobe to my Shaq, El Yerno Guapo, El Gitano Perdido, Anandita Kirana. Papa, I would ask you how you are, but I know how you're feeling. So let me just go ahead and ask you this. Give me your one word, man. I know it's going to tend towards the negative side with the loss, but how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I kind of have a funny one, Robert, and maybe it's not what you expected, but my one word's weird. Like, it just feels weird. It was a weird game. The atmosphere was really weird. Like, just from when I stepped and walked into the stadium, we might talk about that a little bit. Something felt off. It didn't feel the same. The stadium was quite empty. It wasn't as festive as I remember in terms of especially the later stages of last year. And we'll talk about this later, but if you look at the game on paper, there should have been one winner and one loser. And unfortunately, it was the other way around. Right, the outcome was the other way around. So it was just a weird game all around, man. And of course, I walked out of there disappointed. I remember I saw you there at just out in the top, just as you were about to go to the press conference, and it just, I mean, we did not have a good we were there with shout out el presi, el commissioner Mauricio, man. I mean, we had a little chat up there, and it wasn't nice, right? It wasn't nice talking about this team. We just didn't fathom what we just witnessed in those 90 minutes. Just a weird game overall. That's my one word for you, man. Just weird. Just a weird season, weird game.
It hasn't been so much weird as a lot of futility so far. But instead of my one word, I think I gave you a song lyric last week I think I'm going to follow that up with another one this week, and just hit you with Linkin Park's "I've Become So Numb." Like it really is just getting to that point where like I'm seeing this team, and like they're you nailed it right on the head. There should have been one winner and one loser, and it didn't turn out that way, and kind of leaves you numb. I mean, got home and the wifey asked me like, "How you feeling?" and I was like, I'm good. Like I think it's I think I'm just kind of trying to shield myself from any expectations, and then you're not let down, right? So yeah, I'm starting to become numb to it all. I mean, really, as an accredited journalist, you're not really supposed to have a banda either which way, right? And so in that respect, I guess I'm doing my job a little bit more faithfully. But everybody knows I grew up a Galaxy fan, so it does affect my day usually what the result is, but recently it hasn't, and it's just because like I've been seeing what's been going down, and it just seems like everything is stacked against this team right now. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later, but Big Heck in chat says disappointment as his one word. He's not wrong. I mean, there's really no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, disappointing start to the season, and there's really nowhere to go.
Understatement.
Here. Yeah, understatement for sure. But there's nowhere to go from here, but up. Like I mean, hopefully they don't keep sinking. Hopefully there's not more bottom left to touch, and hopefully from this point it's all the way up now. But yeah, I mean, despite the score lines, I mean, we want to say thank you to all you guys that are in chat, and thank you to everybody that's supporting this show. It's marvelous to be here with you guys once again, despite the result. Thank you for showing us love. Thank you for getting us to 500 subs. We're slowly on the march to 600. Hopefully you guys can help us get there by April. And yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't tuned into the show for a couple times, or if this is your first time, super chats are now available. So let's get the 6 super chats today, guys, and every one of those represents 6 MLS Cup titles. Of course, if you want to make sure that your question or your comment is read out and seen, go ahead and hit up that super chat, and then you're also helping this show supply itself with rico horchata and bebidas. Today, drinking that horchata espresso, and you guys made it all possible. So thank you to you guys. And of course, Ananda and El Profe Alex Ruiz just dropped another episode of Los Galacticos last week, episode 5, LA Galaxy's midfield mystery. There's that's one of the big problem areas right now for the Galaxy is that midfield, and they tell you why that midfield is struggling. So go ahead and check that out. But before we get into it all, Nanda, I believe you have some housekeeping.
Yeah, man. You did a lot of it, but really quick, GCam just says my worst is disheveled. Oh yeah, man. That's some deep words right there, Papa. Deep words. It's I mean, it's not fun right now, especially experiencing the high of highs last year, which was winning it all, right? And yeah, it's a tough one, but Rob, you did a lot of it. So all I'm going to say is, como siempre, antes de olvidarme, buenos días, tardes o noches, y bienvenidos a otro capítulo de La Cuna Galaxiana. This is the 4th installment of Sad Foo Hours this year. Unfortunately, that's 4 games in a row. I'd like for that to. I'd like for us to start Happy Foo Hours on Thursday. That would be.
Oh, that'd be
great.
so great.
That would.
Yeah, that would. Oh, that'd be so fun. I mean, it's like that right now. Where a result, on Wednesday could really boost this team. Big Heck in chat with the first super chat today. Thank you so much. He says, "Here you go, boys," and gracias a ti, Big Heck. Big shout out to all the IEGs out there.
Shout out.
Always representing in las buenas y en las malas in lot 13, and of course on away games. You guys are always out there. So gracias a ustedes. And really, this is where the team needs you the most, in las buenas y en las malas, in las malas, and that's where you really see, the mark of loyalty in a fan. So that's all I'm going to say on that, really. In las buenas y en las malas, go ahead and stick around for this team. They are going to need that help. So we have GCam hitting up that second super chat. Tú y yo Iraquinho.
Damn, GCam. Is that little extra 10, give Rob that extra little soprano voice hitting those high notes.
Yeah, man. I gotta
There
hit you
you
with
go,
the
Bubba.
falsetto, man, for that super chat. Yeah, man. Well, let's get into it. I mean, we have a lot to get to today. Plus, we got to talk about the Champions Cup coming up on Wednesday. So we'll hit it up with some announcements for you guys. Happy birthday to Elijah Winder. He is one of the LA Galaxy's newest signings, and he turns 21 today. Go ahead and show him your support, guys. Like I said, en las buenas and en las malas. I hope he had a beautiful day surrounded by friends and family. I know that his family's back out there in Louisville. Hopefully he got to see them or at least, talk to them, and he enjoyed his day. VCSC, Ventura County, has started their season. They opened with a 3-2 win over Tacoma Defiance, or Seattle Sounders 2, at the Willie Roll in their season opener. They were led by a brace from Dylan Vanny, son of Greg Vanny. So, like I said, at least one Vanny had a wonderful season a wonderful week this week. And shout out to Dylan Vanny. I mean, he might be the answer at striker, man. There was a couple other notables from that match. Vicente Garcia, who we've told you guys about on this show, becomes the first 2010s born player to play in MLS Next Pro. Of course, he makes his debut for VCFC at the age of 15. And for his brace, Dylan Vanny was named the Rising Star for match week 1 in MLS Next Pro. Congratulations to Dylan Vanny. I mean, hopefully he, continues that streak. Can you see Greg's face, like in this young face right here?
I'm trying to pull that up. A little bit. I didn't know he was. He has red hair? There's a ginger. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yo, man, that term's a derogatory term, bro. I don't know if we can. You just got us canceled, bro. Ah, man.
Nah, that's a term of affection. Look at
that's a term of affection. Well, it depends who you use it for. So, like, if you say ginger for like Alexi Lalas, then it's a slur. But if you use it for Dylan Vanny, then it's a term of affection.
Hey, I was about to say though, we need to sign him up, man. We need a guy that can put the ball back in the net. I mean, sign this kid up. He looks great.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, well, it's only one game, but 2 goals in your first game of the season. I mean, that's not a bad way to kick it off. GCam says we have El Gregorio Vanny, El Tío Greg, or depending on last week's telecast of the Champions Cup, that announcer said that people call him the Greg father. No one I know calls him that, except for that announcer. But he says now we have El Vainias Vanny. I mean, I'm okay with calling him El Vainias. I mean, I like it. Hopefully that sticks around. But anyway, congratulations to Dylan Vanny. Heck of a game. And Ananda, this year we definitely got to get out to a VCFC game at the Willie Roll, man. I mean, especially because this is going to be the LA Galaxy's representation in the U.S. Open Cup. So hopefully we get out there sooner rather than later.
By the way, did you check out really quick before we go? Did you check out the interview that they did with Greg? I think it was pre-match before St. Louis, and really proud of his son, man. I couldn't. That's probably an interesting place to be, right? A father, but then a coach at the same time, and he's got 3 boys. I think he mentioned. So, man, he must be super proud of his son, and he's doing work, man, doing really good work. So, shout out to the Vanny family.
Like you said, I mean, Greg might have to start relying on Dylan sooner rather than later. But we have a couple more announcements to get through before we get to this game, and this one is one of the important ones. Happy International Women's Day and month, rather. The day was on Saturday, March 8th, and the Galaxy put out a nice graphic here. We have nuestra amiga Gloria, the ACB, La Presi there. And, you'd see her as usual right there in the stands representing. Also representing in the stands was Baddies Night again. Lars put on their 4th annual Baddies Night, and it was a women-led experience. And they had all the women in the capo box doing their thing, showing out real big. I know the one and only Rocio was up in that box representing really hard. I saw her on the way down to the press conference. And of course, Miss Yellow, she had the new t-shirt this year, and it was it was fire. I'm just gonna put the one out. So fire that it's sold out. I saw Lars president Sancho on the way down, and I asked him if there was any left because I have all the other ones as well, and I really wanted to pick this one up. And he broke my heart, and he told me that it was sold out. And I think he saw how bummed out I was that this man literally took the shirt off of his back and he gave it to me just so I wouldn't miss out on having the latest Miss Yellow t-shirt for Baddies Night. So White Mike, Big Sancho, I mean, my heart is yours. You know what? You need someone off, let me know. We're burying them. I owe you big, and gracias for the t-shirt. But yeah, man, I mean, that's just a show of what the Galaxy community is like. Literally, we'll give you the shirt off their back. And yeah, man, so again, shout out to the Baddies, and shout out to Lars for holding that experience. And guys, tomorrow is LA Kings Galaxy Night. We've told you about this one for a couple weeks now. They're playing the New York Islanders. So this is tomorrow, Tuesday, March 11th. If you're listening to this a couple days later, you might have missed it. Of course, this is like that whole multiverse thing. If you're listening to this now, as we're recording on Monday, then this is tomorrow, yes? And the Galaxy and the Kings have dropped a collab in honor of this match. They say a collab built on the legacy of champions that is dropping tomorrow. This jacket is pretty fire with the quasar and the double hockey sticks right here. You know what? The Minister of Finance might have to get mad at me over this one. Might have to pick that one up. And speaking of Galaxy merch, this one is pretty appropriate for the moment. Naranja Dulce shop just dropped some more merch. New G's apparel coming at you. The first one here is the Galaxy Prayer Club, praying for the LA Galaxy God's Club, los favoritos de Dios. Yeah, I mean, comiencen a rezar a Diosito y el Santo Raquinho, because the Galaxy need all the help they can get right now. I love how this rosary is ended up on the end there by the quasar. And of course, you have Galaxy de Los Angeles, El Grande de 1996, seis veces campeón. Go ahead and hit up shopnaranjadulce.com if you guys want to pick up either one of these. And rounding out the announcements here, this is a call for the Podfather. He needs your support. You know, not a lot of people know this, but I mean, you should know if you listen to Corner of the Galaxy that the Podfather, he loves his trains. So go ahead and help out the OCME. They are a nonprofit. They are a full 501c3. So if you need a donation letter, you need a tax write-off, your donation goes to help them. They're trying to get to 40K for their 40th anniversary. And I spoke to the Podfather a little bit about this after the press conference, and he says that you know, they have events quite frequently. Was telling me that, you know, inevitably when people go and they check out OCME, people fall in love with it. So I mean, he showed me the track and everything like that, and yeah, that's another one of these things that we're gonna have to hit up and onto. This you know, I've never been on a train just for like sport and not travel, and so hopefully we can go ahead and help out the Podfather. Again, guys, Podfather does a lot for this community. He never asked for anything, and so he's asking for your help now. Go ahead and help out Podfather, the OCME, and keep those trains running, man. And before I forget, and we go ahead and get into you know, the match proper and some news. I want to send a special shout out to the homie in the G, Leo, who announced today that he had gotten that Hale, he had gotten that Chamba. So Leo, congratulations to you, man. Manifest G, you made it happen. And yeah, man, congratulations to you. So a quick news hit before we get into the match. Ananda, on Friday, or last Friday, MLS released the 2025 general allocation money totals for all the clubs, and the Galaxy is the only club that has used up all their GAM. They have 0 GAM to play with, none. That makes it the lowest among MLS teams. And you know, the rationale here is, or the thinking here is, that they use up all their GAM to pay down roster to achieve cap compliance. So, I mean, so that means, you know, for as bad as the start is right now, all the all the answers, all the fixes are going to have to come from within, right? Because there is no money to spend. So, I mean, Ananda, I mean, give us your thoughts on this. I mean, how should we read this?
Well, as a business, we're pretty efficient, right? I mean, we're literally like not leaving anything left in the bank. So, and this is, by the way, this is more of a discussion for chat, because I would say, well, first of all, I would say I would go to the cap expert, which is Corner of the Galaxy. I mean, Josh is always up on this, so I'm sure he had a section. I didn't have a chance to listen to his pod today, but I'm sure he had a section on it earlier. So I'm sure if you want to double click on this topic, go ahead and check out Corner of the Galaxy as usual. If you guys have not yet, I don't know if you're probably living under a rock. But as from a person that doesn't understand the salary cap and is still learning something new every day, every week, right, about this thing, I look at this on paper and I'm like, okay, that means we must be run efficiently. The only question mark that I have is flexibility. We've talked about, especially the last couple of years, man, covering this, right, is the ability to be flexible and nimble in the summer when a lot of those sort of, I would say, star level talents become available, especially from the European leagues, right? For example, where the Galaxy, not recently, but other than Marco Reus, I mean, Galaxy's been shopping there in I would say before sort of this new regime took over. But that's the only question, right? It's like, can we be flexible enough? I think the Galaxy are going to have to be creative now to pull off a deal like that. Like, for example, for guys like Antoine Griezmann, for guys, that caliber of player, you're gonna have to be creative to see if you can poach that type of talent, because it looks like we don't have anything available, right? So we'll probably have to sell someone to get someone. That's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong. Again, I would tune over to Josh, because I'm sure he has all the details and all the fine print and all the wham, jam, ram, thank you, ma'am, like everything in between, right?
All the ends.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I'm reading it. But again, that's like probably speaking fully out of turn, because I do not understand the salary cap. I probably understand like 5% of it, and that's being modest.
Interesting that San Diego has an expansion side. They have a lot of GAM to play with, but teams like NYCFC, Inter Miami's somehow, some way has about 3 million and change in GAM. I don't know how really they pulled that one off. Houston, which we've talked about before, has a ton of GAM. Minnesota United has almost 4 million. So they have those assets to play with. I don't know. I'm kind of seeing it the other way. Like, Will Kuntz was on this show and he spoke to us about, all the hits that they were taking. We've even heard from him that the bonuses that the team got counted against the cap. So all of that, I guess I hear what you're saying, that it's run efficiently. However, they have nothing to play with now. And so, but I don't think that's necessarily Will Kuntz's fault. I think that's the fault of the league, again, that puts all these restrictions on the champion and makes the bonus count against them. So I don't know if I'm seeing it quite as rosy as you are. Like, this is a well-run business. Were I to see this is, and it was a traditional business, it would be like, hey, we have nothing to make this business better. And like I said, that means that everything needs to come from within.
That's why I go back to the flexibility point. But I think the bonus point is big, right? Because we're getting punished for winning, essentially. And we've made that point before, so I don't want to berate it. And here's the other thing to rub salt in the wounds, Rob, before we go on and unfortunately cover this game in Sad Food Hours. But
do we have to
rub salt to the wounds, we had to get Maya a pay cut, and we're still at zero, right? So you're also ruffling the feathers of some players who, honestly, on paper, probably deserved a pay raise.
You signed Sean Davis just to cut him,
and
yet to get to zero.
Yeah, I mean, right? And you have to pull off moves like that. So, but again, I kind of see that as maybe they had to do that for Nascimento. I'm not sure. I'm not going to speculate or guess, but it's clear that we are up against it. I mean, we are literally working bare bones, like literally bare bones. And yeah, depending on how the season goes, we might have to be a little creative in the summer. But again, I don't think those decisions are going to be made until we see at least 20-25 games into the season.
and just to be clear, you don't think they're gonna want to sign me for 5 pupusas and maybe like a couple guitar picks? I mean, I'll play that strike position, man. I mean, you see me banging a goal or two on Saturday. Big Heck out there says, "Go fund me, Galaxy." Yeah, it might come to that. I don't know if that GoFundMe is going to be league allowed, but because there's all these financial restrictions anyway. But it's getting there, guys. And as a result of the Galaxy having to pay down that cap, I mean, you've already seen all the departing players, and it's really left this team. I'm going to bring it back to what Greg said in that first match, disjointed and disconnected. And we saw it again here in this latest match here, the Galaxy's third match of the season, where they fell 3-0 to St. Louis City at home. The Galaxy started well on Sunday, but a defensive mix-up between Novak Mikovic and Maya Yoshida led to a goal mouth scramble that Cedric Tuchert capitalized on for St. Louis's first goal of the season and the game's first goal as well, right before halftime. That means that after 224 minutes of soccer in 2025, St. Louis finally scored a goal. Shout out to the homeboy Justin Ruderman for providing that stat. The Galaxy had a great first half, undermined by one mistake at the end, right before halftime. But they come out of halftime and they give away another goal just minutes after the restart, with Christian Ramirez giving away a pass that led to Tuchert finding Marcel Hartel in space, who beats Maya for pace and Mikovic at his near post. And of course, Simon Becher finishes up the scoring in the 84th minute. He picks up a loose ball, he picks up a pass, a dinked pass that really should have been picked up, and he cruises down the midfield, the Galaxy midfield, like he owned it. He gets a give and go, he gets into space, and he finishes off for the exclamation point. XPH, welcome into the chat, and gracias for the super chat. He says, "Hello, Robin Ananda, a la Madrid." I don't know if I can support you on that one, XPH. Unpopular opinion, a rough start, no need to panic. I'm with you, no need to panic yet. Second half of the season is what matters. Get hot right at the right time, make noise in the playoffs. Yeah, we've said it ever since preseason.
That's the hope.
Yeah, we've said it ever since preseason. I mean, we were calling a fourth place finish, but really, you just got to give yourself a chance to get into the playoffs, and then by that point, you should have everybody back, and you should be able to do some damage. So you had a point on this one.
The only thing I would say to that though is you've got to be in position, right? You've got to pick up points along the way, Rob, and you can't leave it all for the last 10 games of the season, because you don't want to be in a position where you have to win games. And now you're putting undue pressure on guys that are coming back from injury. I mean, again, we've talked about it way in preseason. You don't know how Ricky's going to come back, right? So if you've got a tight schedule, if you've got a congested schedule, I mean, let's say we do make a deep Leagues Cup run. That's going to be a very congested August and September into October, right? So that's the only sort of cautionary tale. The other cautionary tale is you don't want to get it to a point where you're building really bad habits and it starts seeping into the locker room, and that stench festers itself and it becomes a cancer inside that locker room, right? Like it's
good imagery. I like that.
It's not a good look, because and I've said this last time, which is that's the only cautionary tale is don't lose that locker room. Like, you have to keep it together. And that's where we might talk about it in this pod a little bit, but just the leadership, right? The leadership's got to step up in that dressing room, whether it's the coaching staff or the leaders on the pitch, and we know who those players are.
I think this is the first time that I'm going to say this season. I don't think I said it in all of last year. Of course, it was a championship season. By Dave Chappelle and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, when you lose, do not lose the lesson. I know we said that a bunch in 2023. It might be the first time I've said it in about a year and a half, but yeah, it's true. I mean, it's a long season and no need to panic yet, but Ananda's right. I mean, that stench does start to fester. It starts to creep in. It starts to make players shorter with each other. And eventually it gets to the point where something's got to give. Hopefully it doesn't get there, and hopefully they can make that turnaround here on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But before we talk about Wednesday, let's go back to this match. It marked the fifth time that the Galaxy and St. Louis have played, and the Galaxy trail that series 0-2 and 3, 11 goals against, 7 in favor. The Galaxy still has not beaten St. Louis City. Of course, this is one of the newer teams, but
crazy.
in 5 matches they have not beaten St. Louis City. Of course, they came from behind to tie with the Maya Yoshida header last year for the 3-3 at home, and then they lost on the road 2-1. And that leaves the Galaxy winless 0-4-0 on the campaign. They did, as we mentioned, make a couple of chances in this match. They hit the post twice against St. Louis. There was a couple of notables. We mentioned that glimmer of hope through youth. Harbor Miller made his first MLS start for the Galaxy, and he went the full 90. And he is now the 4th youngest player in Galaxy history to start an MLS match. Jack McBean, Efra Alvarez, and Julian Araujo also make that list. Efra Alvarez, shout out to him. He just made the Mexican national team squad for the Nations League. He's been playing pretty well over there in Tijuana. Isaiah Parente also made his first career start for the LA Galaxy and also went 90 minutes. And it was the first time we saw Tucker Lepley this season, and he got 7 minutes of second half action as a sub. But one of those surprises was Isaiah Parente making that starting lineup. Ananda, you had been actually talking him up. I mean, you were talking about how it was really kind of gratifying to see him in the way he was playing. So tell us about the starting lineup. What do you think when you saw him included?
I was happy. Like I said, I saw something in those. I can't remember if it was a 20 or 30-minute cameo in Costa Rica, but he looked good, man. He's a really good type of player for Greg's system. I think his qualities and what he allows us to do in the midfield, sans Ricky, I think is really key. Alex Ruiz, shout out. He made a really good tweet today, or a really good point on X, which is he's probably the closest thing we have to Ricky, and I 100% agree with him. They're not the same player, but what they allow and what the qualities that they bring to that midfield and what Greg wants to do, especially in the ball progression phases, is really, really similar. And I think it's something we don't really have in neither Sanabria, because he's getting up to speed still, and Winder. Parente's just really good, man. I love just how neat and tidy he is. He keeps things ticking along and keeps things very simple. Exactly. And he's also one of the guys that, because every time in the first half I was like, ooh, he's looking for that direct ball. He's looking for a forward pass, like not just sideways and backwards. He'll only go sideways and backwards and use his teammates to get the ball back in a give and go and then advance up the pitch. So again, just a really neat and tidy player. And to be honest, I was surprised by there was a couple of nice sliding challenges he made. So he's got some mobility and he's got a little bit of bite about him if he's forced in that position, which I like. I didn't know that about his game, so that was nice to see as well. But I'm telling you, man, I think he's got to be a starter in that midfield, because without him, we're not. You saw it in the stats too, right? Like all the offensive stats sort of ticked up. Greg talked about the ability to push Marco Reus forward in the pitch, because Isaiah now allows Greg in that midfield to do things that we hadn't seen in the first 3 games in terms of getting into that final third, right? And sitting in the opponent's half. So I loved his game, man. I don't know what you saw in the press box, but I was happy and I was pleased with seeing him in the starting lineup and pleased for him.
Yeah, I got to concur. He did look. No se complicó. Recibía la pelota y la hacía mover. He was quick with it. You used the word tidy. I agree. He didn't look out of place at all. I think if he keeps this kind of these kind of performances up, then yeah, likely it'll be him and Edwin Cerrillo and whoever the attacking player is. I mean, my call is that once Joseph Paintsil gets back, we'll probably see Diego playing at the 10 rather than Marco Reus. And so I really think that it might be that Parente, Cerrillo, Fagundes midfield that you might see soon. Before we get into the goalkeeper situation, though, I want to go ahead and hit up some of these comments in chat. Big Hex says, your thoughts about the fans after 4 games lost? No real big thoughts. I mean, there wasn't a ton of people there at the game, but I really just put that up to the time of the match. I mean, 4 p.m. on a Sunday, especially when there's tons of stuff to do in Los Angeles. Is going to make for a sparsely attended match. Plus, the results haven't been going wonderfully. Marvin G, Orale Papa, ¿cómo estás? Shout out to Migo. He said it was painful to watch towards the end. Don't know what hurt more, the L or the fact that just gave up on the pitch after the second goal. I don't know.
I don't know if they gave up. More so, they were just trying to go for it. They were just flooding numbers forward, and we got hit in the counter. And that's, I mean, we had to chase the game right at that point. So, because I felt that way a little bit, the way Marvin was feeling, but then I rewatched some of the highlights and thought about it the next day, and I was like, yeah, we were just chasing the game at that point. So whether we lost 1-0 or 3-0, I think at that point we played well enough to win this game, and I think that is what hurts the most.
I think what I will say after the second goal is they hung their head. There wasn't that sense of belief like there was last year. Okay, 2 goals down, still a whole half to play. We can get this back. I think the sense is right now like, okay, we're 2 goals down right now. How are we going to get this back? How in God's name are we going to fight back from this? So I think that's what I picked up a little bit more than them giving up, them kind of hanging their head and losing that sense of belief a little bit.
Pero mira, that Peck chance, he puts that away. It's 2-1. It's a different ball game. We're back in the game, right? And you could see it.
Yeah.
You could, at that point, you're gonna get momentum for a 2-2. We had a couple of really good chances, man. I'm telling you. I think the third goal was just we were just sending numbers forward, and had to do something.
And the last one here that we'll go ahead and read out here for the moment before we get back into this match. It's Chris says, mark my words, if the Kings win tomorrow, the Galaxy will win on Wednesday. Bro, from your lips to the Lord's ears, I hope that really happens. Actually, I lied. It's Miller time. G-Cam says it's Miller time. I mean, Harbor Miller had a great game as well. He started for the Galaxy for the past 2 matches. I mean, the first one in Costa Rica in the Champions Cup, and now at home in front of his friends and family. He let us know in the press conference that when he found out he was going to start, he called his mom straight away. And, that's, I mean, he's a joy to talk to in the press conference, Ananda. He's very, very articulate, very, for a 17-year-old, very present. He knows what it is and what it isn't, the situation that the team is going through, juxtaposed alongside his personal good moment. And so, like I said, it was very illuminating to talk to him. Hopefully he doesn't get that PR training that takes all that goodness or that transparency and just openness away from him. But yeah, I mean, their inclusion obviously necessitated by injuries, but they didn't look out of place at all. However, the shouts for John McCarthy keep growing louder after the Galaxy's goalkeeper Novak Mikovic was, I mean, depending on who you ask, at fault for that first goal. And it changes the match. I mean, this goal that is conceded just before halftime really just kind of deflates the team after they had put in a really, really good half and made a bunch of chances. We mentioned that the team hit the post twice. I mean, Marco Royce hits the post off a curling effort, and Harbor Miller follows that up with a rebound, and he puts that over the bar. Through he has a St. Louis player on his back pressuring him. So who knows whether if he had a little bit more time, he would have put that away. But I mean, I really liked what they did in the first 43 minutes of that first half. I mean, they looked a little bit more together. Your point about Parente is one of those reasons they looked a little bit more together. I mean, he was a spark plug going in and about the lines, trying to connect defense to offense, and as a result, you saw Marco Royce a little bit more involved in the game. However, that goal again just changes everything, and it leads to the floodgates to open. I mean, it's I don't know if you've ever seen the Keanu Reeves movie, The Replacements.
Doesn't ring a bell. That
Oh,
Keanu Reeves
Falco,
movie.
bro. Come on, Falco, bro. Well, it's a movie where the fictional American Football League in the movie, they go on strike, so they bring in a bunch of replacement players, one of them being Keanu Reeves. And at one point, he talks about the quicksand, right? How one thing starts going, like one thing goes wrong, and then another thing goes wrong, and then another thing goes wrong, and pretty soon it feels like you're in quicksand. You try to fight it, you try to get out of it, and no matter what you do, you keep on sinking. And this is kind of what I feel like is going on with the Galaxy right now, man. They they're just, each mistake or each adverse consequence is building on each other, and then at a certain point you just can't get out of that quicksand. And yeah, man, so I mean, it's Adrian Ortella says underrated movie. Yeah, it definitely is.
Big XX best analogy. So they like your analogies, Papa. Keep on hitting with those movie analogies.
Yeah, I mean, pretty soon this is just going to be a movie analogy and song lyric podcast in relation to the Galaxy. But yeah, man, I mean, that's how I felt like watching this game. I mean, it just seemed like one thing built upon another, and then they fall to defeat. And as a result, they're still looking for their first league win, still looking for their first goal at home, and now they've tied their worst start in club history. 1997 was also a 0-3 start. It's the worst start the Galaxy have had in the modern era. Of course, the modern era is, after the original MLS 2.0, 2.3, 3.0. See, I can't do math.
Yeah, because they didn't have ties back then. So yeah, exactly. You couldn't tie. So it had to be a win or a loss, which is probably why those. Yeah,
exactly right. So, but I mean, it could get a little bit worse before it gets better. I mean, a loss against Portland gives the Galaxy their worst start through their first 4 games in club history. Now, keep in mind, their longest losing streak in history, in Galaxy history, is 7 games, which happened in 2017. Somebody brought up the point on Twitter that even that 2017 team had a win by this point. But if you look at the schedule, I mean, they're sitting on 4 at the moment. Then you have Herediano. If for whatever reason they crash out of the Champions Cup, that's 5. Portland is not a kind place to play at. And they haven't had a lot of success there recently. That could be 6. Then you go to Minnesota, also another not great place to play, depending on how cold that field is. That could be number 7. I mean, it could be a little bit worse before it gets better. I mean, hopefully that doesn't come to pass. Hopefully Wednesday goes well and they break that duck and they get that monkey off their back. But there was just a couple, there's just one glimmer of hope here. You brought up on a previous pod how the Galaxy hadn't broken 1 XG in a game this season. Well, in this one, they finally broke 1 XG, 1.8 XG, 8 shots on target. But again, that's all undermined by their inability to keep the ball out of the net. Our good friend Profe Alex, friend of the show, says the Galaxy concede on average 2 goals in MLS games when Novak Mikovic is starting in goal. That's Yikes. 7 starts, 15 goals conceded in MLS. And then my colleague at the Sporting Tribune, Anthony Bautista, says the LA Galaxy have now conceded at least twice in each of their first 3 MLS matches this season. So that's not a good way to win matches, right? I mean, I had to flex a little bit on my stats today because you're the stats guys. So but I know you have a couple too.
Yeah, well, before I get into that, I think that's an interesting point. And one thing I thought about, Rob, was the fact that because we're missing those key players, right? Because we're missing the 2 DPs that are injured, because we're missing those key departures, Gaston, Mark, and Dejan. I mean, I know Marco hates it as much as I do to bring up bones of last year, right? But the situation is the situation, and the reality is what it is. But when you're missing those key pieces of your team, and now you're missing a Sanabria, right, who was just getting integrated to the team, has really a high upside, your margin for error gets cut in half or lessens tremendously, right? So remember last year, Rob, we were also giving up goals in the beginning of the season, right? Our defense, we talked about our defense not being to where it needs to be in a supporter shield contending or an MLS kept contending team. And we fixed that throughout the season. But the thing that kept us winning games last year was our offense and how dynamic we were in the attack, right? But now you cut those players out of our team, and that margin for error now tremendously, lessens. So now you have to keep it tight at the back, because your offense, we're not scoring 2-3 goals anymore, right? We're barely getting one. If not, we've got one goal, and we scored one goal in 4 games. So your margins for error get a lot slimmer. And this is the problem with this team. And you compound that with shooting ourselves in the foot, like what Nova, the mistake that we made in the back between Novak and Maya. And this is why we are where we are, Robert. It's the margins are super thin. Yes, we played well, but we didn't get it right, and we got punished for it. And it is what it is. That's the reality of it. But that's the thing. Like, we don't have a Ricky, a JP to bail us out of situations. We just don't have that attacking firepower anymore.
Yeah, and really quick, Leo did mention R.I.P. Gene Hackman for damn sure. I mean, the Galaxy could use that kind of inspiration and good feeling at the moment, but unfortunately they're not getting it. I mean, nothing seems to be going right at the moment. I talked about that quicksand, and it's really, there's a couple of reasons why these things aren't going right. I mean, we spoke about an inability to convert chances, especially in the first half. The Galaxy made a couple different chances in the second half. Peck misses that sitter, which you brought up. But one of the main reasons as well is that, Christian Ramirez hasn't really been that involved in the attack. And you know what? I'm going to hold my hand up during the CVI when he got signed and it was announced. I thought he was going to hit the ground running. Somebody called me out on it on Twitter. I pushed back and said, nah, he's going to get his goals. He's going to eat, especially when Ricky comes back. That may still happen. But at the moment, it looks like I've been wrong, just like the Galaxy have been wrong on the field. This is another stat per Profe Alex. Ramirez is only one touch in the box all season, which resulted in a shot on goal. Of course, Berkey just fantastic on the day. He puts in a man of the match performance to go ahead and keep that ball out. I mean, he kept out Gabriel Peck. He kept out he threw off Royce enough for Royce's shot to hit the post. I mean, he has not allowed a goal all year. So, I mean, we talked about it before. This guy's a monster. If St. Louis doesn't re-sign him because his contract's up at the end of the year, Galaxy, do something, man. Go ahead and go get this man. But more on Christian Ramirez. I mean, we go ahead and talk about what's going on in Galaxy Landia with our wives. So me and Baby Girl were talking about this. Before we go, Leo says Ramirez isn't cutting it. I know it takes time to mesh with the team. Barry should be the starter. Really quick note on that. It was absolutely nuts to hear the crowd chant, "We want Barry." What was that, like in the 60th, 65th minute after Christian Ramirez? Yeah. Well, Christian Ramirez has a basically a breakaway, and he's caught. I mean, it's basically him on goal, and he's caught by a St. Louis defender. And a couple moments later, you get the "We want Barry" chant from sections of the crowd. Huge turnaround for Miguel, who last year was very maligned and not getting any love at all. I mean, people call him Lord Barry derisively, and I've said since last year, he has his moments. He gave the team key goals, and certainly when he came on, you saw a little bit more energy and a little bit more directness from that attack. But Greg had some comments on Christian Ramirez, who, I mean, we had a chance to ask him directly about Christian after the match, and he let us know that and this is a direct quote from Greg. He says, "It's about being dynamic and about getting around the field faster and to the right spots at the right times and things like that." And he goes on to say, at Columbus, he wasn't always the 9. He said that someone would play the 9 and he would play off the line, but he says, but for us, he's the 9, and it's about getting into the box. It's getting into goal scoring positions and anticipating where the play is going to go and be able to arrive there and beat your guy to get a touch. And he had a little bit more in that quote, but he finishes that off with, so it's getting him more connected to, and I guess his overall responsibilities and moments inside of the game and be thinking the right things. And secondly, he's got to get around the field quicker than he is right now. For me, it's got to be faster because the spaces, based on the amount of possession we have, the spaces that we have are not big and they are not wide open. They are pretty tight and intricate. Like you said, Ananda, those fine margins. And you've got to show up at the right place at the right time and the right space to get moments, or else the moment is gone quickly. So, I mean, we're hearing directly from Greg that, Christian hasn't given him what he's been looking for, at least so far. And again, I still think that this man is going to come good and get his goals when he gets fully integrated, when he knows the system, when he kind of realizes, where he needs to be. Yes.
I was just going to say, all that said, he was a Roman Burki save away, fantastic save away from breaking that duck, right? Great chance in the first half. Should have put that away. Great save by Burki off of by the way, that was a play developed and started by Isaiah Parente. Great ball in the midfield to Marco Royce. He just had to slot that one home. And these are the things, right? So look, I think when he gets that first goal, I think the confidence will flow. But again, it's missing those types of chances that are demoralizing this team on top of those mistakes that we had. I mean, Rob, again, I didn't pull up the stats earlier, but if you look at the stat, if I'm Greg Vanney and I'm looking at these stats, right? 68% possession by the Galaxy, outshot
the burden of possession,
22-14. We had 8 shots on goal versus their 5, right? What was the other one so you talked about the expected goals earlier, right?
1.8.
We created enough chances to win this game, but here's the demoralizing part, Robert. And with those shots on target, 5 of those were big chances. I think St. Louis had 5 big chances and they missed 2 of them. So they converted on 3 of them. We had 3 big chances and we missed all 3. Right. And remember last year, we're talking about burning possession. We also talked about finishing our chances and being clinical and executing. Last year, this was a problem. But again, we generated so much and the defense held up to a certain point where we would get a point in some of these games. Right. Some of the away ones were some losses. At home, we would just pull it out just enough. That 1-0 sloppy victory I remember in the mud against Seattle at home. I do remember that one pretty vividly. Right. But this year, it's just not happening for us, and especially early in the season. And as I said before, the margins get super slim when you're missing 2 DPs that can bail you out of situations with talents like Ricky Puig and JP. So it is what it is.
Yeah, the margins are super thin, and you don't have those people to bail you out. Real quick, shout out to the homeboy Edgar Nags and all the boys from Nag. Keep on nagging, y'all. But it's not a good way to operate, when you have those fine margins and not those people to bail you out. And then you said it earlier, you shoot yourselves in the foot with silly mistakes. All 3 goals come from mistakes. The first one obviously was the Mikovic and Maya Yoshida miscommunication in the back. The second was from a wayward pass from Ramirez, and the third was from a giveaway as well. I believe that was Winder with the loose pass. The telecast got a little fuzzy there. I can't really make out who that was, but I think it was Winder. But when you play well like they did in the first half, or at least you make the chances and put yourself in a position to win, and then you give up a soft goal like that, it demoralizes a team. It kind of, again, it makes you hang your head. And Marco said it as much in the press conference. He says it's the worst start that we can have, conceding too many goals and not scoring. I think only 1 at the moment. It's a little bit frustrating. Marco, same Marco. And I know Galaxy fans are feeling that as well. Shout out to Adam, who hooks us up with the super chat. 5 of the 7 goals are allowed, at least, are on Mikovic to blame. And if the Galaxy lose Wednesday, McCarthy won't be getting playing time anymore this season. Looks like based on Vanney's goalie position. It's interesting because, Ananda and I have been talking about this behind the scenes a little bit more. After everything he's seen, is his hand now forced to go ahead and bring back John McCarthy? And, we had a chance to ask him about, Mikovic and his confidence. But before, we play that clip, just leave you with a quick stat on John McCarthy and the job he did last year. Ananda brought this up a couple of times in reference to John McCarthy and his stats. He saved nearly 5 goals more than expected in the regular season in 2024. So those 5 goals, depending on where they came, translated to points. Maybe 1 point in a match here, 3 points in another match there, and the guy was literally earning points for his team. Whereas so far, it looks like the lack of confidence or the miscommunication that's happening with the defensive line and the goalkeeper position right now is costing points. But don't take it from me. Go ahead and take it from Greg Vanny, who had this to say.
Yeah, I mean, decisions aren't going to be in the emotion of the moment, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it comes down to presence and, if the keeper is going to get it, he's got to be loud and clear and early and take the ball. Otherwise, the guys who are zoning are going to attack the ball. And so between them, and I leave the goalkeeper as the guy who most is responsible in the situation, needs to make the situation clear. It was, 5 minutes before when our 2 center backs run into each other when they don't make, right? When Emmy probably doesn't say anything to Maya. So again, presence, communication, clarity, giving each other information. This will help those situations not occur. And we just saw it 5 minutes before, and we saw it on the goal 5 minutes later.
I mean, Greg does his best to shield his young goalkeeper away from, being harsh, but he does basically say, this is on Mikovic here. He puts the onus on Mikovic to say, hey, this is mine, Maya. I'm going to come out and get this. Another take that I saw about this situation is that a goalkeeper has to come out and punch this. Right, get this ball away from a dangerous area, not go ahead and try to catch this and just get it out, right? And this is where we saw John McCarthy kind of excel last year, where he was like, hey, I'm just going to boot this out. I'm just going to punch this out. I'm not going to mess about. And this one, unfortunately, leads to that goal mouth scramble and Galaxy cough up the first goal. I mean, Taylor Schwalman singled out Marco Royce for criticism on this one. I don't know if you saw the clip, Ananda, but Marco doesn't really move on this play. Somebody said the controller ran out of batteries. Yes,
lag. I blame it on lag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he is part of the problem on this breakdown, but he's not the problem. I mean, at the point, it should have never happened to begin with. And since it should never happen to begin with, he's just a factor in this, but he's not, the reason it happened. So, again, Greg lets us know, this is more on Mikovic, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens beyond the Champions Cup. I mean, we know that John McCarthy will most likely start this match on Wednesday, and from there, it's anybody's guess on what Greg's going to do if he goes and rides that experienced goalkeeper in John McCarthy and stops hopefully the bleeding, or he persists with Mikovic. I mean, if I was a betting man, I would say that he's going to go ahead and go back with Mikovic, because that seemed to be his plan ever since last year, and he let us know that. For better for worse, I think they're going to try to stick it out and make it work. But question for Chad. I mean, we have seen everything that's gone through. We saw the Galaxy create chances in the first half. We saw that silver lining of Miller and Parente. Miller showing well, Parente linking up great with Cerrillo, being that Ricky type player. And like I said, most importantly, he kept the ball moving forward. And we'll tell you about his stats in a little moment. But for you guys there in chat, is it time to panic yet? I mean, XPH told us no need to panic. I know that some people out there are doing precisely that. So let us know in chat. Let us know, if you are panicking, if you think that this is going to get worse before it gets better. If I had to, again, if I was a betting man, I'd say, it might get a little bit worse before it gets better. But because of all these factors that are, again, because of the quicksand, all the factors piling up, the injuries, the fixture congestion, the travel, it's been a hell of a March for the Galaxy. And you're starting to see basically, I mean, you've already seen the cracks, but you're starting to see kind of the bottom give out here. What about for you, Ananda? Do you think it's time to panic yet?
No, I think it's too early, but you can. I mean, I'm starting to ring some alarm bells, right? A little bit. I wouldn't say it's full on panic stations, like a full on crisis necessarily, but just because of the situation that we're in. But one thing I was thinking about too, Rob, which is interesting with like these young kids playing really, really well before we get into sort of the defending of the badge and wrap this reaction. And give you guys a mini match preview for Herediano, which is a must-win game. I mean, on paper, this is a must-win game, right? So we've got to score some goals to advance.
Told us as much
in that tournament, right? But even just like the default situation in that tournament, unfortunately, is a must-win. So this is the definition of a must-win. But the one silver lining, especially if you go back, and now I just want to kind of hit on a positive, which is I'm hoping that with these performances with Mil and Parente, we start rebuilding that depth that we had last year, Rob. So meaning you've got pieces that you can plug and play, and these kids they've developed to a point where you can trust them to give them to start. You know, last year was guys like Edwin Cerillo, John Nelson, Gaston Brugman in the final. You had depth. You had quite a bit of it, right? So I'm hoping that the early to mid part of the season is an opportunity for these young players to develop so that we are now reestablishing that depth. So when the starting 11 starts coming back into the team, Greg has options, right, to play in different situations, playoff matches, cup matches, etc. So I'm hoping that silver lining is not just these kids breaking through, but it's us reestablishing that depth that we know that a championship needs to win it all.
G Cam says with his super chat, "This great show, guys. No need to panic yet." Yeah, I agree. Edgar Nax, there's no reason to panic at all. Things will get better. I agree. Things will get better. I mean, things will start to turn. I mean, you'll start to get players back. After next week, they won't have a midweek match. I mean, three games in a week recently for the Galaxy. I mean, 7 games in March. It's a lot, and all these factors are leading into all this that's happening at the moment. Mauricio Herrera says no need to panic just yet, but we do need to get some points ASAP or some wins. Wednesday will be a great opportunity to make that happen, and it'll be not only a victory, but a victory at home and progression in that Champions Cup tournament into the quarterfinals. Not making it to the next round would be disastrous, especially since it's the Galaxy's first participation since 2015, 2016. But yeah, I mean, not a great match. Pretty decent first half. It looked like they were better. There was improvement, but again, shooting yourself in the foot, making those mistakes and gifting St. Louis goals is not the way to win. And they didn't. I mean, that was the reason they didn't. And just to give you an indication of what the day was like, Gabriel Peck has an open goal. This is my moment of the match. He has an open goal, and somehow, some way, this man misses. Last year, he buries that. No questions asked. I mean, against Vancouver, he buried that, and he had a little bit more pressure on him. So when he missed it, I was flabbergasted. I was shocked, and but again, that was what the day was like. We did run a defending the badge, win, lose or draw. We're going to run a defending the badge for you guys. I mean, because there's always a bright spot, and the bright spots in this one were your candidates anyway, were Harbor Miller, Isaiah Parente, Gabriel Peck, and Marco Royce. This is Harbor Miller's first MLS start. He had an 88% pass accuracy, 2 chances created, 1 block shot, 2 clearances, 2 recoveries, 2 duels, 1. We've spoken about Isaiah Parente's great game. He had a 95% pass accuracy, completed a game-high 111 passes, which means that he was a spark plug. He was everywhere trying to get to the ball and get on the ball. He created a chance, had a block shot, 18 passes into the final third, which to my point earlier was he was looking to get the ball forward. It wasn't a lot of sideways passes or passing back. He was actively looking to get the ball forward and connect these lines. He had 4 recoveries and 4 duels, 1. Marco Royce, in my opinion, had probably his best game of the year so far. 91% pass accuracy, 1.14 XG, 4 total shots, 5 chances created, 1 block shot, and 3 duels won. And of course, you have Gabriel Peck rounding out the nominees. Completed the most dribbles in the match, but he also lost the most duels, which was an interesting kind of like side-by-side stat. 9 total shots, 1 chance created, 7 passes into the final third, 1 clearance, 2 recoveries, 4 duels won. There is an official winner voted on by you, the people. Power to the people. But Ananda, as we usually do, we will go ahead and give our defending the badge. And since I went first last time, I for damn sure did. You'll go first this time.
Okay, you for sure did, so I will give you that. No, I'm gonna G up this kid because I've been G'ing up since Costa Rica, but it's Isaiah Parente for me, man. I think he was the spark plug that this team needed to use. That word spark plug. I completely agree. It was just like I said, he's the closest thing I think we have right now to Ricky in that midfield. And look, he's actually a little older than I thought he was, Robert. Harbor Miller in comparison, Harbor Miller 17, Isaiah Parente is 24. So he is pretty seasoned. I mean, he's been within the ranks in Columbus before he moved to LA and been in our system. But I think he's exactly what Greg needs in that midfield. And he was just, more than anything, I was very happily surprised with just how composed and calm he was. And it didn't seem like the game phased him. It seemed like he made the right decisions versus some other players not really, contributing or this is a guy that we haven't talked about, Robert, but I feel like Edwin Cerrillo has kind of let me down a little bit this year. He's taken, I think, a half a step back. He hasn't had the best of starts, I don't think. There's been a couple times throughout the beginning parts of the season where he's made some very simple mistakes, just some loose balls, loose touches that are uncharacteristic of Edwin Cerrillo. And so I look at those two performances between him and Parente, and Parente to me was the clear standout. And maybe that's an indictment on the team, and then the fact that 2 guys from VCFC or the academy are the standouts, right, in the team. So food for thought. But no, for me, defending the badge, Isaiah Parente for sure. I had a really, really eye-opening game, I think, for me in terms of what Greg now is able to move within his midfield and using a chess piece like that. I think it's really positive for the team.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the other kid. I'm gonna go with Harbor. He's like you mentioned, Isaiah Parente is a little bit more seasoned. He's 24, but Harbor Miller's 17. I mean, he spoke about in the press conference how the difference between playing in MLS Next Pro and playing in MLS is or at this stage is that guys are literally playing to put food on the table for the family. And he caused a lot of laughter in the press conference because he said, I still live at home with my mom, so it's an indictment, like you said, on this team, but also it's a plus for the Galaxy Academy because they're producing the type of player that can come in at 17 and not look out of place. He's played for 2 games. Greg said, and let's not get ahead of ourselves, it's only 2 games, but in those 2 games, he's looked pretty damn good. I mean, so much so that Greg said that when Mickey comes back, it might give him an option with Mickey, who's a versatile player, and might let him use Mickey in another way, maybe as another midfielder or who knows. But Harbor Miller's giving him that confidence to the point, or giving him that option to the point where he's thinking of taking his regular right back and using him in a different way because he knows that Harbor Miller will go ahead and take care of the job. So shout out to Harbor Miller, 17, still living at home with mom. I mean, calling mom like, hey, I'm getting the start. I didn't know this, but apparently his sister is like a world famous dancer as well. Shout out to Bam La Ñaña out there, who I asked like who's Autumn Miller, and apparently she's been on tour with like Beyonce and stuff like that. So talented family, and yeah, he's doing his thing. So my choice there is Harbor Miller, and I'm backed up by the people because he is your match day 3 defending the badge winner as voted by you, the fans. So Harbor Miller is the 3rd defending the badge winner. We've had 3 different winners so far, and again, silver linings out of what you can, right? I mean, it's a loss, but you have a couple silver linings here. Harbor Miller, Isaiah Parente being 2 of those. but it is still a loss. And so it leaves the Galaxy with a 0-3-0 record in last place, 0 points, -6 goal difference. It's not looking good. I mean, it's depending on what kind of screen you look at, you can't even see the Galaxy at the bottom. So it's, again, only one way to go from here, and that's up. Not that these count for anything, but Anana just flashed up the ESPN power rankings. The Galaxy are now at 25, down 5 for number 20. But on to the next one, right? I mean, the team is now solely focused on Wednesday. They only have a couple of days to put this current loss behind them, and they need to do it quickly because they faced a must win in this match. The Galaxy play CS Herediano on March 12th on Wednesday at 7:30 at home. We asked Marco about this, or I asked Marco about this, if this is a must-win game, and he nodded in the positive. I mean, the first thing he did was nodded, and he said it's a must-win game. I mean, right?
It literally is. It's like you lose, you go home. Like you're
right. So we have to score goals on Wednesday, but of course, this moment today, we have to think about today, what happened today, what we can do better in difficult moments. So of course, we have to stay together as a team, especially it's not going well in the first 3 games. I mean, he tells you straight up. I mean, this is the game that is must win. If they do win, I mean, it could turn around the season. It can give them that belief to go ahead and start carrying on and start pushing on. So hopefully they're able to make it happen. But this is their second match in the span of 4 days. So it's the fixture, it's the travel, it's the wear and tear on the body. I mean, it's the rotation on Greg's lineup. Of course, if you weren't around and you didn't see the game, if you blessedly were under a rock, the Galaxy dropped that first leg in Costa Rica 1-0. And generally did not look that great. I mean, they looked better than they have in other games, against San Diego or against Vancouver, but they still couldn't find the goal. They've played Herediano now 4 times, and the series is tied 1-1. Sorry about that. They played them 3 times, and then the series is tied 1-1. And the last time they met at the Digs, and this should give folks a little bit of hope here, the Galaxy earned a 4-1 win in the second leg quarterfinal round match. So they have beat Herediano at home. They just need to channel back that energy and make sure that it happens again. Let's go ahead and get into some possible scenarios and outcomes. Ananda, go ahead and take us through this.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. We have to score a goal, and this is what Marco was saying, right? We have to score to have any chance in this competition. You see it on the screen there, guys. So just to make it really simply, if it ends in a 0-0, if we don't score, Herediano wins. If we do score a goal and we keep the ball out of the back of our own net, it goes to extra time. So because there is an away goals rule here, so it would be 1 goal apiece on aggregate to go to extra time, and then of course I'm assuming it's 30 minutes of extra time, Rob, and then we go into PK. So we go back to that goalkeeper conversation, right? I mean, literally, John McCarthy is probably 90 minutes plus extra time plus an amazing penalty kick shootout performance away from starting that next game at Portland in Providence Park, in my opinion. And then you could see all the other scenarios there. So, for example, we score 2, Herediano scores 0. We are still LA Galaxy win. But for example, if the Galaxy score 2, Herediano scores 1, Herediano advances because of the away goals rule. So it's a pretty tough predicament, Rob, in that we have to score a goal, but we also have to do as much as possible to keep the ball, to not concede. And well, that's not been the name of LA Galaxy's game lately. And I guess if you want to be a cynic about it, I mean, the guy that's been causing some of these mistakes is not going to be between the sticks, right? So I'm sure some Galaxy fans are probably going to think that way. So we'll see. I think it'll be interesting how we approach this game, right? Are we going to approach this game given the situation that we are? Is it more going to be a cat and mouse battle, and then we turn on the Jets in the 60th minute and keep it tight for the first 60? Or are we going to go gung-ho in the first 45 minutes and get that goal, and sort of like then we sort of, play a little bit of park the bus, or a little bit more defensively. It's going to be interesting because, again, these cup competitions, strategy goes into this, and this is where it starts getting to get interesting. And the Galaxy, this is unfamiliar territory for this team in these types of cup competitions, right? So it'll be interesting to see how Greg and the coaching staff approaches this.
I'm going to go to, before I go to chat here, basically, an outright win for the Galaxy would be a 2-0. They don't have to worry about extra time or anything like that, but a 2-0 gets the Galaxy through in regulation. Anything other than that makes this tie interesting. Roughneck says, tough time to be a pro player or a journalist right now with this run of play. Yeah, man, it takes me right back to 2023, where all my headlines were Galaxy drop another match. There's only so many ways you can say that. So it is a little tough. And trying to find the positives out of what's happening is a little tough as well. Big Hex says, honestly, do you think the Galaxy can score 3 goals? I think they can. I mean, they made the chances to be able to score at least 2 or 3 against St. Louis. They just didn't put them away. So the chances are there. They just need to be clinical. And then
I think if they score an early goal, yes, I think the floodgates will open, because Rob, we know this is as best as anybody. Like this is a confidence game, especially with strikers, right? And goals. You see the first one go in, and it completely lifts the mood of the team and the stadium in general. Although I will say I'm a little worried about attendance. This is going to be a midweek game. It's going to be raining. That's in the forecast. So that's another thing to think about, to consider too, Rob, is how, the rainy and sort of the condition of the pitch and the condition of the game, etc. So
I think that's another thing. That plays right into Costa Rica, Herediano's.
Yeah, 100%. So this is why, like, are we just going to keep it tight for the first 60 and then try to really go for it in the last 30? It's going to be, the strategy is going to be super interesting, man.
Yeah. Well, the Galaxy still have a bunch of players out. JP, of course, Ricky Puig is the long-term one. I mean, it doesn't even bear mentioning, because he's out till basically, depending on what kind of timeline you're following, between August and October. Mauricio Cuevas still out, and Mateus Nascimento was seen by our colleague Damian Calhoun out there on the pitch and warming up, but it does not look like he'll be available for this one. But Mickey Yamane could be available for this one. We asked Greg about this and whether he what Mickey's kind of timeline was, and he said that he could be available for Wednesday, but most likely it'll be against Portland. So the Galaxy would get a big boost with Mickey Yamane coming back and helping out for this match. I mean, they would probably love to have his experience here. I mean, even if Harbor Miller makes that start on the right hand side, like Greg said, he might be able to use Mickey Yamane somewhere else. And taking all that into consideration, Ananda, what kind of starting lineup do you think we'll see?
Well, I just pulled up on the screen the starting lineup last time that we had in Costa Rica. I mean, there'll probably be maybe a couple changes just based off of the 2 games in 4 days, right, Rob? We might see Miguel Berry in there for Christian Ramirez to start. Ruben Ramos started the last game. Look, given that this is a must-win game, I think Royce is going to start. I don't think he's going to play the full 90, though. I think he's probably going to play, 60, 65. Let's see if we get an early goal. Based off of the performances the last 2, Rob, I think Parente is going to get another start in there as well. It's going to be interesting to see fitness-wise if Sergio gets another start. Could be Winder in there. But yeah, I think you'll probably see a similar lineup. You'll see Aude. I think you'll see Aude again on the left side. The interesting thing is, I wonder if Greg will deploy this 3-4-3 again. That's going to be interesting. I'm not sure. He might be forced into it, right? Especially if he plays Aude. Maybe he's more comfortable with that. But yeah, man, we will see. I think everything just depends on, I think a couple of players will rotate in and out, but man, this is a big game. This is a big game, because if we don't pull this one out, yeah, maybe some panic stations get to creep in. I mean, especially for the fans that are like really wanted to make a deep run in this competition, because we haven't been in this competition like you.
Not a fan, but as a journalist,
as a someone who has skin in the game, with the LA Galaxy.
Right.
Yeah.
I would
So
have loved
that'll be a disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, you can you bring back up the lineups really quick?
Yeah.
You know, the one of the guys that I called out for Herediano in our preview for leg one was Hernandez, but really the guy that took over the match for them was Elias Aguilar. I mean, he scored their goal, but
Yeah.
he was pretty much everywhere for them. And I didn't know this about him, but he's also the longest serving player for Herediano and their captain. We mentioned that the Galaxy was in the competition last in 2015. He scored against the Galaxy way back in the Champions Cup in 2012, 2013. So he has scored against the Galaxy before, and he scored against them again in the first leg. And I mean, I would not bet against him trying to do it. I mean, he's definitely going to try to do it again, but I would not bet against him doing it again. I mean, he had a wicked shot on him, man, and he was really instrumental to their success and them getting forward and putting attacks together. So the one to watch for me on the pitch on Herediano side at the very least is Aguilar. I know John McCarthy will be hoping that he doesn't have to face those curling shots again. But as usual, guys, we're going to ask you in chat for the Galaxy to win this match. They have to ... For the Galaxy to win this match, they have to fill in the blank. Go ahead and let us know what you think. Ananda, I know that you usually bring up betting odds, but in lieu of betting odds this year or for this match, I'm just gonna keep it like on. I'm gonna keep it on the nag tip. All feelings, no fact. If you had to, if you were a betting man and you had to put money on this game, which way would you go?
Oof. So you're asking me for a prediction then, basically.
No, I'm just asking you.
Well, I think the Galaxy are at home. On paper, again, the opposition. We're not talking about a Liga MX team. We're talking about a team from Costa Rica, not even Saprissa, right? So, I would imagine it would be a high probability for a Galaxy win, like in your 60-70%, right? So that's a minus in the 200s, something like that. We're at home. The weather may decrease that a little bit, right? It may bump that down a few percentage points, but yeah, I mean, it should be a Galaxy win, but this is football, and the Galaxy are not in a good moment right now.
They are not in a good moment. I mean, last year there was el suerte del campeón, the champions' luck. It doesn't seem like they have any of that at the moment. Injuries, facial congestion. I mean, the losses. I mean, everything is piling up, and that luck isn't there. So they have to make their own luck. So, for the Galaxy to win this match, they have to. GCAM says score early. Big Hex says they have to start scoring goals. Period. I mean, I mean, that's a pretty succinct way to look at it. They just got to score goals, right? GCAM says they are the Costa Rican champions. No, yeah, they won the Apertura. I don't know exactly how the Costa Rican League works. I don't know if it works like Liga MX.
There's a clausura, because there's like a clausura and apertura, right? So,
right, and so Liga and Liga MX, the Apertura and the Clausura champions play each other for the championship. So I'm not sure if that's the way it works in Costa Rica as well, but they at least won the Apertura, and so they're a good team. And as we told you in the preview of the first leg, they were 13 games unbeaten. I don't know if that streak is still alive. I don't know what happened to them in the Costa Rican League, but we do know that they beat the Galaxy to make it 14, and there's only been a week since then, so I'm not sure what happened with them on the weekend, but my bet is that they kept their streak alive, and they're going for win number 16 against the Galaxy. And if you listen to their coach, and I did in the press conference after last week, they're not cowed at all. They're not scared at all of the Galaxy. I mean, they knew the Galaxy's pedigree. They knew that a bunch of fans were there to see Marco Reus, and they still went about their business. He's speaking about this match as if they are going to be the winners. There's no doubt or hesitation in their minds. They know that they can hang with the Galaxy, and especially they can hang with the Galaxy right now, right? So, Ananda, because I went first last time, for the Galaxy to win this match, they have to
So this means you're doing your prediction first. Awesome. So for the Galaxy to win, they need to. Well, GCAM took the obvious one, which is they need to score and score early, which is what I was thinking of. But more than anything, just based off of the last match that we had last week, they need to match or better the intensity of Herediano, Rob. Herediano is going to be a team that's going to come in our ground, like you said, not scared, right? And they play very physical. This game will probably get chippy. And we're in a tournament where this is a must win for the LA Galaxy at home, right? And then you've got the weather and all that stuff. The pitches might be a little slippery. There might be a lot of slide tackles, knee sliding across the floor.
Hopefully it's not Drew Fisher again.
Like all that crazy. Yeah, good point. And all that crazy stuff, right? So I think they just need to match the intensity. I think that is going to be because Herediano are going to try to outwork us. That's how they're going to try to get a leg up on this. And they're going to try to frustrate us, right? And they're going to be physical with us. And they're not going to back down. So we've got to match that level of intensity and better it, and then just play our game from there. But if we don't match their intensity, I think we're going to be behind the 8 ball, and it's going to be and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Ananda, I think you're safe. 2020 Vision said ginger is not a slur, so luckily we are not canceled. Good callback, 2020 Vision.
I've always thought it was a. Anyways, maybe it's because I know you've got some opinions about Lawless, and I get it. Maybe that's clouded or shrouded your lexicon of what is politically correct.
Me
and not.
I have opinions about Alexi Lawless. Nah. Anyway, yeah, for the Galaxy to win this match, I'm gonna give you the other side of the coin. They have to. You said they have to kind of like outwork Herediano.
Match their intensity,
match that intensity. I'm gonna give you the other side of the coin, right? They have to match that intensity while also staying within themselves and staying calm and collected, and not letting the importance of this fixture kind of overwhelm them. Take some examples from this young man, Harbor Miller, who's 17 and he's playing in the Champions Cup for the first time and getting his first MLS start and doing well, and go out there and enjoy your football. You have the pieces on paper at the very least to go ahead and beat this team. You have the pieces to beat San Diego. You have the pieces to beat Vancouver. There's been bad luck. You created enough chances to go ahead and beat St. Louis. I'm not going to say that they had the best game against Herediano. I mean, I think that 1-0 was a pretty accurate scoreline, or maybe they could have got the draw there, but at least in the league they had opportunities to go ahead and take these matches, right, or at least get a result in them. So you really have to just buckle down and play your game, enjoy your football. Yeah. Don't let the occasion overwhelm you. I mean, you're the LA Galaxy, for God's sakes. I mean, go out there and play like it. Play like the MLS Cup champions you are. Act like you've been there, because you have. That's pretty much what I got to say on that one.
Yeah. So are you saying Galaxy win, or what are you saying?
I'm saying Prado Riquinho, just like GCAM says. Yeah, I mean, if you're putting me on the spot right now, which you're doing, I mean, even though I went first last time, yeah, I'm
incorrect. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm calling that 2-0 win. Somebody said in chat, I think XPH said in chat, I've been wrong on all my predictions so far. Hey, XPH says every single prediction that I've had so far has been wrong, 100% wrong. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong again. However, this isn't a head or a heart pick. I mean, this is a head and heart pick at the same time. I really do believe that they can go ahead and take this match. I think they're due. I mean,
yeah.
You strike out a couple of times. I mean, eventually you're going to get that hit, and I think they're finally going to get that hit. They really are due. I mean, they have been creating the chances. They just haven't been able to put them away. So if they do get that early goal, I mean, hopefully the floodgates open. But yeah, I'm calling that 2-0 win. They go through to the round of they go through to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was going to say 1-0, 2-0. Again, McCarthy between the sticks, man. That's giving me a level of confidence, because remember how many good saves he made last week in Costa Rica, right? He kept us in that match. And if it wasn't for again, very low XG shot outside the box, just inside the post, I mean, that was a perfectly placed shot. And that was off of yes, Winder made that mistake. I remember that. But again, that was a well-placed goal. That's a type of goal that the Galaxy have not even gotten close to, other than Marco Reus. See, this is where the fine margins comes in. Marco Reus hits the outside of the post and goes out, whereas Aguilar hits the inside of the post, or just inside of that net, and goes in, right? And these are the fine margins. But again, I think an early goal will go a long way. I think we will get a goal in the first half, Robert, somehow, some way. And I think to settle the nerves, the floodgates will open a little bit. But just based off of empirical data, I don't think 3s and 4s are on the card. I think a 2-0. Again, John McCarthy gives me a lot more confidence marshaling that back line. And yeah, again, probably more of a heart pick than a head pick. But like you said, I think we're due. We're overdue like a library book, man. I really do. I really do.
Ananda, have you heard of reverse racism?
What is that? My mind is so jumbled right now. It's 10:30, and I can no longer think.
Well, I'm sure chat has heard of reverse racism, right? But XPH has now hit us with a reverse trap game for Herediano. I mean, it could be, right? I mean, because they've won 14 or 15 in a row.
Yeah. Fair.
This might be that game where they come in and say, look, we played this team off the pitch in Costa Rica. We're going to go ahead and do it again. And GCam said earlier, a corner dog will bite. Yeah, I mean, don't put it past them to go ahead and go out there and, take it to Herediano. I mean, you mentioned that whoever outworks the other team will get the advantage. I think the Galaxy is going to have to go out there and outwork Herediano if they want something from this match. So there you have it, chat. Those are our predictions. I mean, both Ananda and I are calling wins. I mean,
don't let us down. Don't let me down, Galaxy. Don't let me down.
Big Heck, I will absolutely go sing to the players before the match. If that's what it takes, I will go play them a concert in the dressing room, take my guitar. I mean, I'll learn the acoustic version of Blessings and Unbreakable, and I'll have JP come up and sing with me, and we'll absolutely give the team something to get roused up about. But Ananda, anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, I just want to say thank you to everyone to chat. Thank you again for the super chats, guys, and supporting the show. Really, really appreciate you guys. And again, blessings, and pray to Dr. Aquino, and that we won't have another version of Sad Foo Hours, and that we are going to be advancing in the round of, what is it, 16?
16, yeah.
In the Champions Cup, because I want to see more games in April. And by that point, we'll conceivably have JP back, right? And some of our starters back.
And
Nasi will be back, exactly. So
Dominic will be back.
Just Galaxy fans, just again, we said it earlier, and I think this is an important point to probably cap off this episode, which is we've always made the point that it's easy to support the team when they're winning, but the best thing that you can do right now is support the team when times are down, right? En las buenas and las malas, especialmente las malas. And the team needs your support more than ever, right? More than they did probably all of last year. So get out there, guys. If you can make it to the stadium, I know it's going to be a tough trek. Midweek game. It's going to be in the rain, so bring your ponchos, etc. But team needs you, and hopefully we can all be there to support the boys, because they're going to need it, man. This is a big game for them. An early test, so early in the season.
Yeah, well, if you are out at the game, we'll see you there. Well, at least I will. And yeah, if you see me, come and get that Lacuna Galaxiana slap. We want to go ahead and give you some stickers. So yeah, I think that caps it off for us. Next on this humble little pod on Thursday, March 13th, we'll bring you our Galaxy versus Herediano reaction pod from the second leg, and we'll also give you a mini Portland preview. And then a week from today, we'll bring you our Portland reaction that'll go down on Monday, March 17th. And then, blessedly, the Galaxy have a week off until they travel to Minnesota on March 22nd. We're going to leave you with this. Last week, I believe, Greg was asked about the current troubles, and he said, "This group will figure it out. This is what we do." And yeah, I mean, they figured it out last year to win that title. Hopefully, they figure it out sooner rather than later, and they go ahead and start righting the ship. But yeah, this is what we do. The Galaxy win titles. The Galaxy are the jewel of MLS, and I have faith that they will turn it around, right? So from Greg's lips to the Lord's ears. I think there's only one thing left to say, right, Ananda?
Dale.
LA strong, vamos campeones, and G's up. Pew. Do it, yo.